Welcome to the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board's August meeting. Apologies, we have one from Kat.
At my level, I believe Barry Swindles.
Oh, Barry, yeah, I didn't even recognise he wasn't even here. And Barry. 1.2.
Sorry, can we get a mover?
I can move a second for the apologies, please.
Happy to move. Yep.
There's no public forum.
No problem. Thank you.
Are there any items not on the agenda?
Nothing's been raised. Thank you.
Okay, 1.4, are there any conflicts of interest to declare? They've been done. 1.5, Minister confirmation. Can we have a move in a second, please?
Yeah, happy to move. There's a correct record.
Are there any omissions or you've obviously cruised through them, Brendan?
I've been through them. I can't see any.
Just the one that you're querying, Terry, about the leases and maintenance of council and owned halls.
Yes.
Is anything come of this?
That's included in the action schedule.
Yeah, is it right? Okay.
We'll talk about it then.
So I'll put the resolution that the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board confirms the minutes for the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board meeting held on the 18th of July 2022. All in favour?
Aye.
Yep. She's 19th of July there, but she's 19th. Yep.
Still got the 16th. I'll double check it afterwards.
She's 18th here.
Oh, that's Whangamatā, sorry.
But I'll make sure it's correct anyway if there is.
Yeah. 2.1. No, the move in the second, please. It's the natural and cultural grant application.
Yeah.
Dan, you've got something to say there then?
Yeah, so just on behalf of Eileen, who's the report writer, the report is fairly straightforward, but it's a request for $5,808.88 from the Natural Cultural Heritage Grant budget. But just to be clear, that within that budget, there's only $5,020. So you wouldn't be able to meet the full amount if you chose to do so. But otherwise, the report is pretty straightforward. Happy to take any questions.
Well, I'd like to move that we just use the amount that's left in the Heritage Trust, and I'm sure they'll find the difference.
Through the chairs, Chris, remember you did move that. Are you happy to approve that?
Yeah, you still happy, Chris? Yeah, I think so, mate. Yeah, we look after the history panels and the pretty good.
Well, very little different money there, I find.
Okay, no further discussion. I'll put the solution or motion. We approve, as Terry said, the amount left, 5,000, excluding GST.
Is the exact amount? Give us the exact amount.
$5,020.
And $20.
Do we have? Do I hear we didn't have that amount?
The amount that they requested was $5,808 and $5,020. Was it right?
Yeah, that's right.
Make sure they know that we've given them all we've got.
Yeah, and then the second resolution is, sorry, is clear with the amount. Yeah.
They're still travelling home from overseas. Okay, all in favour?
Aye.
Yeah, thank you. 2.2, we have a mover and seconder. This is the request to retain the discretionary fund grant to Whangamatā Community Services Trust.
Yeah, I'm happy to move that way.
So originally, somebody who moved.
Through the chair, you wanting to move that it's approved or declined?
Approved. They couldn't use it due to
We had a lot of discussion last time.
COVID and all the rest of it, so they just want the money retained like we're doing with the other ones to roll over so they can use it.
Yep. All in favour?
Yeah. Need a second.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
But short of seconders and nominators.
You'll have the name of the book a lot.
Yeah.
2.3.
We're doing the order.
This one's three.
2.3, I have to move it. I'll move it.
Present camping bylaw, yep,
Yeah. Have a second?
yep.
Right, Dean.
Yep, so just through the chair, the report is again fairly straightforward. There's a submission period from the 28th of July open until the 2nd of September. So the board can make a submission at any point during that period. You could choose to craft one in this meeting if you wanted to. If not, you could also craft one outside of the meeting because it will still be captured in the submission pack, which will form part of the deliberations report at full council. So there's various ways for you to approach a submission if you would like to make one. Obviously, if you're happy with the content of the Freedom Camping Bylaw as it stands, then there's no need for you to make a submission.
I know that Pauanui are very concerned about the Pleasant Point. They have made it very clear that they do not want any freedom camping at Pleasant Point.
And I concur with that through the chair. I mean, speaking with Bob, he actually sent a picture of what it was like on a busy day, and it's pretty crazy to put a lot of campers in there as well. And also that Tanga Tairua, his lane one is prohibited at the moment, and that will make that second one prohibited. How we capture that, I think it should be through a submission if we can through the board. It doesn't have to be today, but I think it should go to the council as a submission from the board supporting to stop freedom camping at Pleasant Point.
I totally agree.
When do you want to do it? I don't know.
Well, just through the chair, considering it's quite straightforward, then Esther could bring that up now. We can obviously fill in Warwick's details afterwards.
Yeah.
But we could pretty much just capture that the board's view is that there should be no freedom camping at Pleasant Point.
Yeah.
I'll just go bit by bit if you'd like to.
Is the camping there now?
Would you like to speak at the hearing in support of the submission? So that would be yourself as the chair, Warwick. Would you like to?
Yeah, or whether Terry will speak on our behalf.
I will speak.
And then freedom camping district-wide restrictions. Bylaw proposes the following district-wide restrictions. Only certified self-contained vehicles are to be used for freedom camping, maximum 2 consecutive nights. Freedom camping is limited to between 5 PM and 9 PM. Do you support, oppose, or other?
Do we what?
Support, oppose, or other? It's on screen.
I think we know. I think we support all the recommendations. It's just the one at Pleasant Point was,
We just want to add it to the list.
and of course, the other problem that Ben Grubb brought up in his submission at council about Takara Bay or Sam's Grave.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no camping, but his concerns was the policing. And that is the biggest concern right over the peninsula, I would imagine.
Well, staff are proposing to prohibit freedom camping. So it's in this letter that came out from Laura White. And the ones that went through is Mercury Bay, there's some additions there, Pauanui, Whangamatā, and teams have all got added in that staff report. So they've actually said to Takara Bay, we're proposing to prohibit freedom camping as it's boggy and a kiwi habitat.
Yeah. There is, because the other thing we, a bit of a niggle about was that when we had a workshop, didn't we? We had a workshop on freedom camping.
We,
Yes, I think it was probably about 6 months ago prior to.
back in December when the first one round.
Yeah, prior to staff sort of starting their work on it. But this is the period for.
And then we had the request coming out of Tairua was to have someone on the ground come and visit the sites. Now, it didn't happen. I understand the woman got COVID. It wasn't Faith, it was someone, I forget who it was now, but Faith said they got, and it never happened. Nobody ever came and actually physically looked at the sites to get a feel of what we're niggling about.
I think that's where the board should come in. We should be understanding of those things for sure, yeah, because if it didn't happen, You do need to see the sites, you need to walk them, just understand them,
Yeah,
and pick up the vibes about, whether they're suitable or not, so.
so that, to me, that was a failure by staff that they didn't actually come and.
And then the freedom camping bylaw, we know its expiry date, so they get to wait for the government to do its thing, and now they're coming back again, and those submissions from place then will fall back into these new submissions. They'll roll them over, so they won't get lost.
Okay, so just for the chair, so for question 1 and 2, I think you're saying you're generally supportive of having a freedom camping bylaw, and have a look at what's question 4. Sorry, isn't it?
So
Question 3, sorry.
that's question 3 is about prohibited areas.
Yeah, so it's in there that you're saying that you think that Pleasant Point should be prohibited.
Prohibited, correct?
Yes.
And for Tairua Bay, would you like to make a statement on Tairua Bay?
Through the chair, just I'll put it up on screen what the suggestion is. Tairua Bay sounds great. Total no prohibit to protect that health area of health and safety. So they have, like you said, put in there to prohibit it.
Yeah, there is an area, I think they're referring to the one down at the beach side. So you drive down with the lawn and the tables and chairs, back up the road. There's another area where the first entry to the beach with the car race was this car park metal.
Yeah.
That's not a bad area.
It's not a good place to freedom camp. I've done quite a bit of freedom camping, but that's on a sort of a slope, so yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, just leave that as it is here. I'm happy with it.
I think 90% of people at freedom camp are very, very responsible. It's a small percentage.
And remember, that's exactly what we're doing here. We're actually saying those people should have self-contained vehicles.
Yep.
They've got to stay for a maximum of 2 nights only, and they're going to leave by 9 o'clock the following morning.
Yeah.
So, and that's in that confined space. Outside that, it's
Not our problem.
that's not our problem.
Yeah, see, when I first came to Tairua, there was 5 campgrounds.
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
Now we've got a third of one.
Yeah.
Now, no doubt the same thing's happened down here.
Right. We
Yeah,
have 3.
we have another. With the Angus the same.
Well, actually,
And so it's created.
offsite.
And we've got to try and think about it. As people change their way of camping now. Really. So you're happy with Tairua Bay stays prohibited? Or being prohibited?
Or the chair, do you want to put a reason in why you are opposing or objecting to freedom camping at Pleasant Point? Or just leave it as an objection?
It's the community over here don't want it.
Yeah.
I think the Kiwi habitats are.
It's easy to say the community though, Brookie, but
There's no facilities there.
well, there's a public toilet there.
Got it in there.
At Pleasant Place.
Yeah.
Was Pleasant Point.
Yeah.
Well, I built it. Well, I put the plumbing in it.
You've done it. Okay. Yeah, well, it's the public don't want it there, so I'm.
That's, you've got to be a bit careful because it's, the public is not just the person who stands up.
I don't think it's the public, I think it's the locals. I think it's just local pressure.
Yeah.
And around the Kiwi and around the fact is it's suitable, so it's your guys' sort of territory.
Well, it's Pleasant Place we're talking about.
No, keep me down at Pleasant Place.
Tairua Bay.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Pleasant Place.
I was talking about Pleasant.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. If you're wanting to object to the freedom camping.
Oh, yeah, well, it's just,
There's no camping currently at Tairua Bay.
No.
it's currently too busy with other, people living and boating and using it as a facility for.
Due to congestion in the area.
Yeah,
Bob's actually said you that, he never said it to us.
and now it's going to be a boat ramp area that's going to be very popular. It's going to be congestion.
Quite. Well, he's pretty up. He's been attacked with me. Quite.
Yes.
Okay, so that's
Anything, yeah.
just the last one. Is any other comments in general?
So you're still going to leave it camping down at Tairua-Pāuanui?
No,
No,
prohibited there. Prohibited at Pleasant Point and Tairua-Pāuanui.
I'd have thought
They'll leave
Tairua-Pāuanui was a good one, actually.
Rawbilly Point and the south end of the beach, those two there.
Tairua has a bit of cultural implications.
Well, it's recommended here that it's going to Tairua Lane, boat ramp access, this side is proposed to be included as prohibited area under the bylaw to allow council to be better enforced options that are more tailored to the issues caused by people who may freedom camp on these reserves. And that's staff made that call there. And both Tairua have come back and said they would support that too. They don't want freedom camping at those two sites. Because it's becoming a boat lane access point as well, there's going to be more congestion as well.
It's not a lot of people who want space down there, but
No, it's more clients and
it's a general place for a boat ramp to be honest.
Yeah, but there's what's happening is that the Royal Billy Point's having issues with getting boats in and out there. So people are looking at other options.
Royal Billy Point, the freedom camping is away from the boat car park.
Yeah, so they're happy to have it there, yeah. I'm just talking about the more boat access, and there's going to be more boat use at Pleasant Point and Tongariro.
Yeah, okay, well, maybe think about extending the numbers down to the south end of the beach. There's quite an area there. But yeah.
okay, right. No other queries? I'll put that selection or recommended. All in favour? Against, thank you, carried. It's both 1 and 2. That we received the draft freedom camping bylaw. And we confirm the Tairua-Pauanui Community for submission to the draft camping. Thank you. 3.1, mover and seconder.
Through the chair, can we please just defer this item until staff are available just due to
Where it's passed.
conflicts? Yeah, but we don't have move, we can move to item 4.1 and take that item first.
Morning, Lou.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Oh, it's loud and clear.
Excellent.
So we have a move and seconder for 4.1, which is a Parks and Works program.
Yep. I can bring you up to date about things. A lot of stuff has arrived: barbecues, tables, bike racks, bench seats, etc. We're all set to roll those in for Labour weekend, but the shelter for the south end of Pauanui is still being held up. So we'll be able to get swap one of the barbecues out of there, but whether we get the shelter in for Labour weekend is a little bit doubtful at this stage, but yeah, it will be in by Christmas.
Okay.
The cricket pitch has gone in at Kennedy Park. The Kennedy Park tennis courts are done. As we're speaking now, the Ajax Head playground, the install is starting there. The old playground's gone. The guys are in there today installing the new playground, and that should be all set by the end of the month. And the last thing, Kennedy Park fitness equipment is due on the 3rd of October. So AJ's hoping that'll be in by Labour weekend. And yeah, so that's all I've got. If there's any questions.
I don't have any questions.
Oh, looks good. Looks good. Get that done.
Pauanui will be happy.
So you feel comfortable that the time frames will work, Lou? No trouble?
Feel comfortable. Sorry, Terry, what was that?
The time frames are suitable to get this work done.
Yeah, it certainly is. The only hold-ups we have are the shelter at Labour weekend for the south end of Pauanui, so that might be completed till Christmas. But all the others, no, we've got the parks contractors working for that. And yeah, of course, if we can get the concrete, shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, very comfortable, Terry, that those timeframes can be met.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Okay, bye.
Okay, put the resolution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Through the chair, were you happy?
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Do we get it, Chris, did he second it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
So we're
you.
just receiving that, aren't we?
We're just receiving the report. All in favour?
Aye. So that'll be good if that gets done. Is that a rollover of the budget or is that the new budget? Just that
Rollover.
70 grand, is that a rollover from?
We're going to move into Andrew's.
Good morning.
Did some roll over from last year?
Yeah,
There's, I think,
Did
morning,
it
Andrew.
roll over, did it, Andrew?
yeah, there's quite a bit that's rolled over, carried forward into this year,
Okay.
to answer your question, Terry.
Right. Okay, thank you.
yeah, we'll look into, yeah, into organism. Thank you.
Right, item 5.1, move in a second, please.
Yeah,
Second, yep.
Thank you. See, Andrew, good morning again.
Yeah, morning, Warwick. Any, I think Lou's commented on a couple of items already in the work programme, but yeah, I'm open to questions now.
Okay, we'll just go through them. You happy?
Yep.
Get them up first. What page was it?
So Pauanui playground replacement,
Yeah, that's going to be October now, I believe.
yeah, it's moved out a bit, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. Only it's just supply chain issues, but yeah, it'll go in then.
Okay, all right, that's good. And Tairua Skate Park obviously ticking along.
Yes, it is, and the design work has just started. That's an update I got this morning. So that's going well.
is there nothing from them about their judicial review?
Have they,
Not to my knowledge.
have they put one in?
No, that's what I'm saying.
I don't believe,
Wasn't there a time frame? 30
through the
days?
chair, I don't believe that we've received it. Anything.
You've had their first meeting of round 2, stage 2, phase.
Yes, they've met with they've developed the user group, and they're the people who will input into the design that's going forward.
Okay.
As far as I know, we haven't had
Well, you were,
a meeting because I was doing it for the fire brigade.
yeah.
Haven't heard a thing.
Well, Chris was on that committee. He has not been involved.
Haven't been invited to anything.
Okay, I'll look into that.
Because the fire
I saw the
brigade.
report from Veros, they came through a report saying that selected the type of people who are going to nominate.
Yeah, but that's as far as it got.
Right, you haven't had actually had a meeting out?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think they have.
No, from what I understand, there was the first meeting was going to be a face-to-face, and then after that, via Teams or Zoom.
Okay.
But that's all I've heard, so maybe it's still in the pipeline.
The next three are all four all blue, that means that they're all blue.
Yep. It's blue, it's finished.
These numbers here, Andrew, they are finals, are they? Showing these numbers on here, these figures? These are.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
Right.
You can see street furniture renewals, that's a final. Minor reserves project, that's a final. And parks and renewals, that's a final as well.
Right.
Parking boat ramp. Any advancement on the resource consent for that?
No, it's still with WRC at the moment. It's a slow and painful process, but it is with WRC.
These are amazing, aren't they?
Yeah.
Work.
Which program?
Okay.
That whole court ceiling is moving on. Tairua Park, yeah.
I don't know, we are with the Tairua
Well, this is the material change requested in June, more
Yeah,
expensive, but still able to be accommodated through the.
November. It'll start in November and be finished before Christmas.
Okay, yep, I see that.
Yep. Tiger turf.
Yeah.
I suppose we should talk about Holland Stream improvements.
Yep.
So according to Ian Smith, that there's no purchase of properties to happen.
That's correct.
They've done the clearing of the channel or the clearing out of it, and it seems to be working, right?
Yes, that's been done.
$3 million budget still sitting there. What's the plan to do? What's the further plans forward for this, Andrew? What's the next step?
Well, Terry, once the we get a bit more feedback from the local property owners or landowners, then the idea is we can start the work on Mount Ave, pipe upgrade. That will cost a reasonable amount of money, and then we will get the consent and then move towards whatever's been approved in the resource consent. So it's a 2023, 2022, 23 project, but it's subject to the timing of the resource consent. And once we've got some certainty from the landowners, we can then go and tender the work and appoint a contractor. So that 144, I beg your pardon, sorry.
Sorry, carry on, sorry.
So we've got 144,199 in the budget. Some of that was carried forward, 75,560. Unfortunately, those numbers are not in here because when they were endorsed by council, this report had already been written, so there'll be some more money there from last year.
Okay, so I just need some clarification around the consent. The consent was supposed to be lodged back some time ago.
Yep, it was.
But did the consent get lodged or not? Is held back now? Was it?
No.
Is there a consent sitting with WRC?
I believe not. I will confirm that after the meeting, but my understanding is until we've got all the feedback from the landowners, we will hold submitting the consent.
It's been a long, painful process.
Okay, thank you.
3 years now,
Yep, it's
this round.
it's very frustrating.
Being very conservative, Andrew. Oh, yes, it's.
I'm trying to be polite.
You did a great job.
I know it's not on the work program, but have you had an update on the heritage on the extension of the library?
Yes, what an interesting experience this has been. So we see, I'm still being polite. We interfaced, I think if you remember right, Warwick, with Neil Cotton, who was the architect who did the original work. After quite a few emails, Andrew Scott Cotton decided they didn't want the job. So they've together, they don't want to do any design or anything, but they're happy to have an overview. So they've suggested we use a local architect, and Kathy and I are meeting him on the 31st of August to kickstart it again. So we've lost about 2 months, which is once again very frustrating. But it is moving, Warwick, but it's at a snail's pace because the architects basically thrown the towel in.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get another architect. We'll need to bring him up to speed with the heritage people, your friends, Warwick, and
So just be aware, Royal's winging her way back to New Zealand right now.
oh,
Oh, bugger.
the timing's good then. So we'll kick it off again, like we did in the library a couple of months ago. Get the architect on board, and then start driving it. But it is a bit.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
It's a bit frustrating. I'll make sure that it's included in the next work program,
Thank you.
so we don't lose sight of it.
No, yes.
Okay.
You've got a couple more just to discuss, if I can,
Yes.
Andrew.
Yes, Terry.
The Hikawai District Trust walkway from Pauanui they're putting together, which
Oh, yeah.
I think $50,000 a year goes into that. Where are we with that?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
I see it on our work program. I just wondered why it shouldn't show.
No, I don't know, Terry. I really don't know. Eileen will probably know, and it's not on the work program, as you said. I'll find out, but I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not on
And if I
top of
could
that one.
just another one that's the Walk Tairua group have been talking with the mayor about the footpath from the bridge, walk bridge into town.
Yep.
Has anything come out of that discussion? Are you aware of anything?
Not to my knowledge, Terry. No, I'm unaware of anything regarding that. If the mayor's involved, it might take a while.
If I could say something about that, our mayor rang me a week or two ago now on the weekend. She's been in touch with the landowner.
Yep.
It's actually his son now that runs the farm.
Yep.
And Graham apparently lives full time up in Auckland. Sandra had got permission from Graham to use a piece of that land to form a footpath. The funding from which would have to come from locally raised funds and the labour and all this sort of stuff. She'd been in touch with Whangamatā, and they have offered some support. And that's all. I don't know whether it's material or what, but that's all I've heard, and it's gone quiet now. So
That means nothing. That means nothing's happening.
What's the story about the bridge?
The culvert,
No, the bridge.
the bridge cracking up.
I keep hearing stories that the bridge is
Splitting,
Not
the holes are splitting.
yeah, Andrew, you've had a look at the bridge, haven't you?
No,
The footbridge?
no, I know the one you mean.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it. No, I think Ed Varley would probably be up to speed on what you've just mentioned, and as it's not on the work program, yeah, I'm unaware of that. So perhaps, Esther, it's get some feedback from Ed Varley on that particular one.
Yeah, I think, I just interrupt there, sorry.
Yeah, okay, Terry.
Really important that it does come into this work program. This is sort of a mystery job, this whole project, that we didn't even know it was going to get built, the bridge.
Yeah.
And then we found out they've done a hogging path one way, and now we've got a group that's really pushing for a path the other way, and there's a culvert in place. It's a whole lot going on that really isn't being shown.
No,
Should really
no,
work program if it's going to be a part of this procedure.
Officially, yeah.
Otherwise, it's just all hearsay.
If people ask us what's going on, we haven't got a clue.
no, neither have I. Anyway, that can be an action for me, Esther, to find out what the hell's going on.
Noted, thank you.
Just,
You don't have to be too polite either.
yeah, and just through the chair and for any public listening, just a note that the bridge that was mentioned was an NZTA project. So just to be clear around that. But I think the idea of getting Ed to provide an update with his contacts is the right one.
Yeah, I think so too, Dean.
But it should come into our program. It should.
No, it should. It should, I agree.
That's a
Terry.
project.
Otherwise,
Put it on
it'll
the-
just get lost.
Yeah, totally agree.
I
Thank
agree.
you.
Thank you.
Just through the chair, I do have a quick update on the work programme generally. So between operations and governance, we have been thinking about the work programme for supply in August. And the aim was to supply a end of financial year report in August, which would have been the 21-22 year, which you've got in front of you, but also the start of the new financial year report, which would have been the 22-23 financial year. So that's what we're intending to do moving forward. It didn't quite happen this time around because of the timings of the 9th of August council meeting. Didn't allow us time to confirm what the carryovers and what the exact budgets would be. So we're then therefore unable to make the deadlines for this meeting. But moving forward, that is the intent, to bring an end of financial year report and then a new financial year report in August.
So we've only got one meeting left, haven't we?
Yeah, you have.
So reconciliation of the retained earnings, is that part of that report? Because that was supposed to come out. They're doing the reconciliations of the retained earnings from each area so that we knew where the money was. Is that part of that report?
So I think, just for the chair, that was the topic of the council report on the 9th of August, what the proposed retained earnings would be. And so you'll see the outcome of that process in the council decision in the new work programme next month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that right, Andrew?
Yeah, we can do. Yeah.
Right. But what we can do, just going through the chair, what we can do, following the feedback from other boards, is we'll make sure that we're really clear with our bullet points around budget to confirm where each of those carryovers has occurred.
Well, some of these projects are going to be affected by retained earnings too. So we know the skate park, I mean, obviously this Britain project may be impacted on it.
Hmm. All right.
The way some of them go, and they're going to want to be carried over again.
Anything else? No. Well, thank you. With the motion, all in favour?
Yep.
Receiving the action report, receiving the.
Receive the following work programme report.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Have a good day.
Bye. Yeah. Bye.
Through the chair, can we please take item 3.1 at this juncture, because we have Emma available now.
Okay.
Morning, Emma.
What page is that?
I'll tell you.
Good morning.
18.
Thank you for deferring for me. I'm juggling childcare as is the theme of this winter.
Okay, can we move from the second please for the Tairua-Pauanui Reserve Management Plan Deliberation and Endorsement?
I'll second it.
Right.
Right. So we had 18 submissions to this plan through the public consultation. And despite that, relatively manageable number of submissions, they were quite comprehensive. So we had almost 130 submission points, which is what we've broken down in the report in front of you. The comprehensive nature, some of them are quite expansive, the submissions, and a lot of them had points raised that were outside the scope of the reserve management plan. I don't know whether you remember when we last spoke, we discussed how the reserve management plans that council have been rolling out over the last couple of years throughout the district are a change in approach to the previous reserve management plans, and that they are they cut back on the aspirational side of future works, and they reflect what's currently in the reserve. And one submitter actually mentioned that it read like a catalogue, and they were absolutely right. I can't remember if they said that in a hearing or in their submission, but yeah, it's a catalogue of our reserves, where we state what the what the background of the reserve is, what's on there, what the issues are on the reserves, so whether or not they flood, or whether they've got pest plant, or whether they've got trees that need that are nearing the end of their lives, and then the appropriate place for the projects and the investment in those reserves are the work programs, which you've previously been discussing at the same meeting. So because of the nature of the submissions we received and how they were quite substantively out of scope of the reserve management plan, we have taken the approach in this document to take the opportunity to raise those issues raised in submissions and bring them to the attention of the community board, because we felt that it might be quite helpful for you to see them in context in the reserves for you to take and build into your work programs, rather than these submission points which have been well thought out, and the submitters have worked hard on them, just going into a black hole, so to speak. So a lot of the submissions, a lot of the report has no change recommended to the reserve management plan, but it recommends that the council or the community board and then the council take note of the issues raised in submissions. So does that make sense to explain the context of the report?
Yeah, it does make sense. Through the chair, if I can just say that I was very impressed with the submissions from the Tairua-Pauanui on this reserve management plan. I think they've highlighted really that we've most probably been a little bit amiss in the past of putting this detailed information into the plan. And as we go forward under well-being and the new future of, I think, where governments and councils are going, this is going to be a big focus, the parks and reserves. So having that plan, and I know that Lou Mackwell has done a lot of work with Pauanui on a reserve plan showing the trees and the layout, etc. And he's talked about doing one for Whangamatā. I think it's just something that would be great having an appendix to it, showing these kind of things, that how it's being managed and what the future is like, which the plans don't give a great amount of detail on. So I thought, this plan definitely works within the context of the other documents that inform it. Yeah. So I think there's some work to be thought about in the future about expanding those plans to have a little bit more detail around the future development of the sites, the trees that are significant, and all those things that matter around those parks. So, and the equipment, obviously, the assets involved. Yeah. So I really want to say a big thank you to the Tairua-Pauanui people who put those submissions together. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I'll endorse Terry's comments. I think you've done a great job. I feel a lot of I don't suppose we use the word complaints, but there is a lot of concern. Now, I heard you say council should take note. It's more than that. They need action. It's all very well to have a recommendation written in there, but that's where it seems to lie. Nothing seems to happen with weed control, particularly weed control. It's getting away. Time after time, I hear these complaints, and our Resident Ratepayers Association, along with a couple of the other lobby groups in town, are greatly concerned that they submit to these things, and what council do about it is their worry. We need, in bygone times, we used to have a Parks and Reserve Committee, and along with a harbour committee, and these seem to have fallen away. But I think it's a damn good idea if we can rekindle a local committee to have some input. We've got a lot of expertise and experience out there in the retired community, and they come to me and time, as I said, time and time again, and they ask questions about what is going on. They're quite willing to help. I think that the pest eradication program they've got going, there's a lot of volunteers involved in that, and that's involved with the parks and reserves. So we need some action.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, I've used the word note, and I understand your frustration with that, but yeah, because that is outside of the scope of the reserves management plan gambit, and we are somewhat constrained by the approach that's been taken across the whole district. We're being consistent in the approach taken in the Tairua-Pauanui Reserve Management Plan, but there's nothing to say that this cannot be part of a broader community-led plan of action. Yeah.
There needs to be some consultation, some, you know, when you look at Whangamatā, that area there, again, there's a lot of recommendations, but I have personally been involved in some pretty good discussion about that area, and I think we should be doing something about it. We should be fencing it off or planting it out, and not just creating. It's quite a sensitive area. It's a culturally sensitive area. Do we have to get it onto our annual plan? Do we have to get it into our LTP? Well, we need some advice on that, and we need to have the conversation sooner than later.
Just
Yeah, and oh, sorry, Dean.
Yeah, just through the chair, there's a couple of things that are being raised here, and I suppose by way of current solutions, if a member of the public has got concerns about the maintenance of a reserve or a particular asset, then they can raise a request for service with the council, and then it will be logged, and the proper operational units will go out and will do maintenance at a point, you know, depending on other priorities when it's relevant. But I suppose if what you're saying, Warwick, is that communities want to be part of a program with the parks, potentially with iwi, with other councils, with other partners, then really I would just encourage them to have that conversation, start that conversation, and the community management team is happy to sort of help with that, see what we can pull together.
Well, I think in the past, Dean, that we've had the Parks and Reserves Committee, which has been attached to the community board. They've been there and they've been dissolved and disappeared because they've lost, feel like, input or control, or been able to bring those informations forward. But what we're also saying, and I know it can't happen this time, I can understand you've got a platform to work to and you're going to follow it, but we need a plan that's also being done by council that Lou's trying to put together, you know, that we can say to people, hey, this is what our plan is, where we are at the moment. If you want to do something about that or talk to it, you know, submit to the community board to look at it, and then becomes, because it's a locally funded event, becomes very focused to the local community, how they, and it's going to be more and more important as we move forward. You can just see that becomes one of the few things left that the community be having a big involvement in. So,
yeah.
I don't think excuse me, the public forum is long enough. It's not you know, we need to have a meeting outside the public forum. We need to sit around a table with staff and
talk about these things.
Yeah, it's greater than just a 5-minute submission in public forum. We need to get some more traction.
And I think that came through clearly in the submissions that they were really keen to put input into it. And some good input, wasn't it? Really good input, I thought. That it should be at least be considered or and you know, contained in some sort of document that shows that this is where they want to go. I think it's fantastic.
I mean, further to the recommendations that your staff have put together, we need, that's the recommendations is the bit that we've got to get hold of and shake it.
Yeah, but they can't go into this document though. It's another step outside it and something for the future to look at. But this one's very much about a template that's following with all the community boards, I would say. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. We're just, I guess, following more the letter of the Reserves Act, where previously it had sort of wandered a bit and become a bit blurry about the requirements of the Act and Council's requirements. Another thing to note is that we've got the general policies document. A lot of the detail went into the general policies that cover the whole district. A lot of the issues on reserves are not unique. Pest plants is a classic one. There's usually pest plants present on most reserves. So the reserve management plan will note where there's a specific issue of pest plants, but the process for dealing with that is outlined in the general policies document. Otherwise, this document would be quite large because we'd be repeating ourselves continuously.
It's quite large as it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
So, sorry, just to talk about the report quickly. Did you want to go through it by maybe exception? I'm just aware that I don't want to spend. We could spend a long time going into the detail. But is there any specific areas that you wish to delve deeper into? Or would you just like to sort of skim through and just maybe give us a yell if there's something that pops up that you're wanting to discuss? How do you want to run this
I
through?
think that's a good idea, just.
Yeah, well, I just thought, is there anything that you should make us aware of that maybe's changed dramatically in that we think?
Yeah, so there's no massive changes. A lot of the time, submissions have raised maybe there's an issue that we've missed. Some submitters have noted, oh, there's something different happening on this reserve that isn't reflected, and we've said, awesome, thank you very much. Made the reserve management plan a wee bit more comprehensive. But the majority of submissions, as I said, that they are unable to be captured into the reserve management plan itself, and a lot of the discussion has been, we've tried to group those like submission points together to enable the community board and the community management, the Tairua-Pauanui staff to be able to deal with those in bite-sized.
I see that Slipper Island, you've got a little bit of commentary around sensitive stuffs out there. That's quite new. Hadn't seen that before. So is a lot more iwi input into this, and how did that happen about? Was there consultation with them?
Yes, yeah. So we were in almost constant consultation with Ngāti Hei, just trying to at every stage reaching out and asking for their feedback. Obviously, they've got a lot of conflicting priorities with very low resourcing, but we managed to meet at a sort of an operational level with Joe, and then later on he sent us through quite a comprehensive submission, which was included in the submission pack that went to the hearing. And in that he provided some context around some of the specific cultural importance of some of the areas. So we were able to reflect specifically, you've mentioned Slipper Island. Also, there's some context around on the Paku. So that was taken essentially verbatim from the submission. We didn't want to tutu too much.
Have you had to change any of the designations due to the information you received?
No designations have changed because those are sort of, you're talking about maybe classifications, is that?
Yeah,
yeah. So we haven't changed any classifications under the Act, but what we've done is where there's maybe been some issues identified on the reserve or some special character, we've changed the category. So the category drives how they are managed, what the level of services or the indicated level of services provided through council. A really good one for that is the puriri reserves in Tairua. There's that large puriri tree. We moved that into the nature category because that just indicates to the reader that council is interested in protecting and specifically enhancing the natural beauty of that particular reserve.
Just through the chair, also note that Paku, because of the importance to Ngāti Hei, that's been recategorised from nature to cultural heritage.
Yeah.
So that's another example of looking at what's in the submissions and considering what's in there.
Yeah, so these will become important to people to understand, these classification changes and what it affects them in terms of how they use those reserves. So is there any rule changes to how those reserves are being used, even though they've got a classification change?
No, there's no rule changes. It is more an indication to how we will consider future improvements on the reserve. So, for example, if we've noted in, so using Paku as an example, let me just find that one quickly. So previously it was nature. 34.
74.
24. I was just looking for it in the report, sorry.
It's 19, it's,
Um,
Do you want me to put it on the screen? Will that be easier?
um,
page 19 of the report, I think 74 of the agenda.
Yeah. So if and when council was to do improvements on that reserve, it would need to consider that it's now a cultural heritage in the cultural heritage category. So I'll just read out in cultural heritage reserves, we've got reserves that offer protection of built cultural and historic environments, and that provide for the commemoration, understanding, appreciation, and remembrance. And not to say that they don't only include those values, they'll also include, for example, amenity or ecological values in addition to that cultural heritage value. So I guess it's the it's just a trigger to say, okay, if we're going to be doing something to Paku, consider that this is considered a cultural heritage reserve. So that needs to inform future developments or improvements on that reserve.
Yeah, so I read it and it tells a story in here when I read this. Is that story going to be presented in some way on a plaque or something like that? Is that what they're looking to see? It seems appropriate.
That's absolutely something that could fall out of this reserve management plan. You've made a really good point there. So we wouldn't include that in the reserve management plan because there's no funding. That's a separate process through your work programming and right through to the annual planning and long-term planning processes. If there was to be a plaque, it would be consistent with the categorisation of the reserve, and you'd follow that. That process through, you'd probably need to discuss specifics with Ngāti Hei, getting the funding. I'm sure the cost of a plaque probably isn't ginormous, but there might be. That's out of my realm of understanding, so I'll stop talking.
Our local heritage society is going down this path with these heritage panels. The particular part that Terry's referring to there about the epic journey was the panel that we have sitting in storage at the moment because we've hit the wall with Iwi opposition. So that's what we do. This is exactly what we're doing.
Okay.
The other thing we had a workshop or discussion last year, and I asked a question about what council is going to do about some of these little pockets of useless reserve that are at best just growing weeds and noxious plants. Are they going to retire them or what? Have they come to any sort of a decision? People have encroached on them. The neighbours have got trees, fruit trees, driveways. And we've got quite a few of these that were originally given in lieu of, as I understand it, given in lieu of funds. They were given bits of useless land. Has council got any idea what they're going to do with them?
So I believe there's a two-prong approach to addressing those pockets of land. The first prong is to ensure that we don't receive any future, to use your words, useless pockets of land. So being a lot more discerning around the land that's accepted. And then secondly, there's I guess a few different options. A lot of those pockets that you're referring to might be just noted in the unmaintained area of the RMP, so we don't have any specific plans to address those, but where they are maintained, I know there's a few that Lou have been in touch with following the process for working with neighbours to address encroachment. We deal with encroachment on a complaints basis, so if there's a significant encroachment, raising an RFS, as Dean mentioned, is a really good start there, because we don't know what we don't know. And there's a lot of reserves. And another potential way to address these underutilised pockets of land is, of course, investigating the sale of those lands. That's obviously a different kettle of fish and requires quite a specific process involving public consultation.
Very good. And can I just raise Tairua Bay? It's another one that's been obviously talked quite a bit about. That's on 79, page 24. You mentioned in the management actions, developing partnership with residents and or local community groups to support the management and ongoing maintenance of the reserve. Is this request for whom to implement? Who's going to do this? Is this just a comment, or is just saying this should happen, or is this a request, or is this a TCDC action?
So we've got that kind of action in a couple of our reserves where there's I guess a formed group of people. There's some people who are maybe already working on different reserves. So there's a few actions which require TCDC to proactively address, and the reserve management plan will need to be implemented, and those actions will be, I guess, top of the pops, especially Te Karo, because there is that significant public interest. Faith, are you able to speak more on that operational side of the implementation of the RMP?
So the operational side is we've tended not to put operational matters into the RMP because they are just day-to-day matters that we deal with, as a result of requests for service, etc., etc. So I'm not quite sure what you're asking, Terry. Are you asking about whether there's going to be a formal group set up to deal with these, or?
Well, I just looked at it and thought, well, it looked to me like you were sort of signaling that the submissions that come through were very positive and very proactive, and this was an opportunity for them to develop it further if they wanted to. I didn't quite know why you put it in, so it was my reading of it, and I just need to understand if that's in there. Are you asking us, the community board, to develop those partnerships, or are you asking TCDC staff to do it? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. It looks like a positive thing to do. I didn't know what you would want to be done with it.
Yeah, so it's generally staff. It's staff developing those relationships with the community groups.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Is that? Yeah.
This is exactly what I was talking about.
Mm.
Yeah.
Just through the chair, there is already an example of that at Tairua Bay, where local residents, like at a regional council, Thames Coromandel District Council, have done some pest plant management. I can't remember the pest plant off the top of my head, but came together, had some ideas, had some suggestions. I can't remember exactly, but I think the agencies did some of the heavy physical control, and then the locals sort of helping out with this. And so I think what that management action indicates is that those types of things will. Well,
they're positive things to happen. Yeah. I think they're really fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. To actually see it in the plan, it sort of signals what we're talking about. I think that's great.
Well, when you think about the June party that's gone on, when they put an ad in the paper that come along on Saturday or beach care and all that, they get a great turnout. So this is what I'm trying to promote.
Yeah, in the reserve, we don't see that kind of action now. There used to be a very strong committee, so I think some sort of rejigging there needs to be happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So anything else? It's quite interesting flicking through all these and looking at the red.
Yeah. I mean, there are sort of changes throughout the entire document, but I guess it's more what the community board have a specific interest in, because something that I might find interesting is maybe a bit boring for you. The marina might be an interesting one to discuss. So we discussed it. It was brought up in the report of point 12. I'm not sure what page that is in the agenda on Paku Bay Reserve. So submitters suggested that the reclaimed land around the marina should be reflected in the reserve management plan because it is public land. The the tricky part for the reserve management plan is, of course, it's public land, but it's not reserve land that's managed or maintained by council. So what we've suggested instead is that that land is included in the appendices of the plan to reflect that it's publicly accessible land, but it's not reserve land. So that's on page 102 of the reserve management plan. We've just added the Crown land adjacent to the council reserve there, that's on the corner of Paku and the Marina Road, as well as the
99.
the walkway that's goes around the exterior of the marina that provides access to the water.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So that was I guess a important point raised by quite a few submitters.
I also see on page 34 or 89 of the Pauanui Gallagher Park, there are some large trees on the reserve that may become hazardous as they get older. So you signal some things that are happening on the reserves that look like they need attention. I think that's good detail to have in there for sure. And is that staff or is that a resident's request? You know, where does that come from?
So if it was already in the plan, that would have been staff noting that was something that needed to drive decisions.
Is it in red?
It's in red. Okay, so that's something that would have come out of submitters.
Okay, right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you've got some actions going on here, which I think is really good. I think it's what we're trying to do. I think, you know, we just do expand on a bit and get that community involvement down the line somehow. It would be great.
Wonderful.
Right.
Good.
Okay, any further? I'm ready to go on all day about this.
Yeah, that's the trouble, isn't it?
It's a good document, though, eh?
Oh, it's huge.
A lot of reading.
A lot of reading.
Yeah.
And I like what you got on page 95, investigate coastal erosion issues, where appropriate, identify options for intervention to manage erosion in a sustainable way through the shoreline management plan. So that's kicked straight into that as a option for them to signal them that there is some erosion issues around that area. Around the eastern lobe. Okay, well, I'm good.
Any other? Thank you, Emma.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Next steps for this is for it to be adopted by council. They've got the delegation for adoption, so they'll receive the same report because they also need to deliberate because they've got the delegation to deliberate, but I imagine it will follow the previous reserve management plans where it's a bit more of a if the community board is happy with endorsing it, then the council's happy with adopting. So
Okay.
Right.
Go back to your domestic duties.
thank you very much. I appreciate that. Have a wonderful day. Nice to talk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so I'll no further discussion.
We have to adopt it, don't we?
Yes, well, the first part is that we received the report on the reserve management plan deliberation dated 3rd of August 21. And 2, we recommend the council adopt the proposed amendments to the Tairua-Pauanui Reserve Management Plan as included in attachment B, the draft final Tairua-Pauanui Reserve Management Plan for endorsement by the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board. Are we all in favour?
All right. Do you want to second this because it's your will, or do you want?
Yeah,
I think you should, because then it's your plan, really.
Yeah, okay. I'm happy to second that. All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you.
Well done. That's a big piece of.
It was a lot of
work, but I just think it was fantastic. The response you got was fantastic.
I did notice one typo in it, but I can't find it.
One typo.
Yeah, that Pauanui and Tairua Reserve. But
There's a lot of cross-outs now going on here.
So,
So
Chair, Chris, once you do find that, if you just let us know, we can relay that back to staff.
yeah, I'll find it eventually. It's just such a big,
Piece of documents, right?
I just hope something, something comes of it.
Well, I'd like to see that Parks and Reserve
Filing
Committee
it away, yeah.
re-established.
Yes, so do I.
There's a very strong group of people out there, very good input, so.
things like the wild ginger.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff never been addressed.
And they can keep on to it, eh? And that sort of gives some support to Lou to say the people out there looking around and keeping an eye on things.
There are a lot of monthly meetings that happen and, we've got a gardening group there that are very strong. 60 odd sitting on that.
Wow, is that?
I think
It bashed me to bits.
Waka used to look after the noxious weeds.
Yep, so through the chair, Waikato Regional Council still does have its pest management plan. And so that will determine what we control as landowner led and what we control as supported and what tools and mechanisms are available. So that's still all up and running, but also our parks and reserve staff obviously do maintenance on our parks and reserves, and they've got access to those partnerships and relationships and contracts and that type of stuff.
Dean, the National Environment Standards for Fresh Water that came out through the government, they were talking about, they were taking it to the CMA, to the edge of the CMA, and it was contested. It was thought, have you had any further discussions about whether they've agreed to go to the CMA or not?
That's through the chair. I don't have that information, but we can look to get I can talk to the policy staff that are connected and see what the latest is.
See what the latest there, because we're just to know whether that's quite.
Lorna's got her hand up, so she might be able to
Oh, yeah.
answer that.
Lorna, good morning.
Good morning, board and councillors. There will be a briefing paper that policy and planning are bringing to the councillors, so we'll be able to explain that more in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, great. Thanks, Lorna.
Thank you. Because also we've got, at home, we've got these two pest management lobbyable groups.
Yes.
Hard at work.
Yeah.
They should be factored into somewhere into this parks and reserve.
Yeah.
There's a lot of liaise with them, because they're a dedicated bunch of people.
Just through the chair, there are a couple of other things that I'm aware that the council staff are looking at. So one of them is the community management team and other parts of council are looking at some of the relationships that we have and some of the frequency of some of the meetings that we have. So for example, we meet with groups at different frequencies. Sometimes it's on request, sometimes it's regularised. So there may be some space there where we can regularise some meetings with these groups, bring everyone together, talk about the same type of topical issues, and understand what they're working on and what we're working on. So for example, Mercury Bay has a good example where it meets with Mercury Bay North groups, and there might be 5 or 6 of them come along. Their chairs will give a very brief introduction about what's happening in their world. Staff will exchange a bit of information as well. And everyone goes away with those connections in place that I think we've been talking about today. Now, I'm not going to say that will work in every ward area, but the work is underway to look at what works in some areas and could it work in others.
So how do we facilitate such a thing? Do you run it, or does Ollie or some staff come out? How do we get this thing action?
Yeah, well, the community management team is looking to have that work done prior to the new elected members coming on board, so that we can, I suppose, give guidance as to how this is how we think we can approach these relationships, and then it'll be up to each of those boards whether they think that's a good idea or a bad idea. And again, I'm not saying that you need to go to the extent that Mercury Bay might, but following a similar model less frequently or whatever might work. So, for example, there's 2 or 3 groups in Tairua. you could meet into 2 or 3 groups in Tairua and facilitate something like that here, share those types of things.
Yeah, but when you say, you're saying the board, would meet or
Yeah, so,
make a member of the board and
yep, so again, not that you'll go with the Mercury Bay example, but in the Mercury Bay example, it's open invite to all of the board. But the key staff member would be the area manager. And so, yep, sit down. Sometimes a couple of the board will make it, other times all of the board will make it. But really it's just sharing of information.
Right.
So
That's very good.
I'll do some more work on that. Or I
Well,
can
it's imminent.
give you a
It's
touch.
running out of time. Yeah.
But it'll be for the new training.
Right.
To make any changes.
Very good.
To action schedule now.
Which is 6.1. Can we have a move and a second, please, for the actual action schedule?
Second.
Yeah. Yes, I've got your name down there. Action schedule, which is page. Give me a page.
170.
It's fairly small and yeah. Now this is referring to the Tairua Park, is it? This insurance, what is it?
Apologies, it doesn't have the name of that. Both of those actions are for Whitehall.
Oh, thank you, Whitehall. So do we have any? Derek, is he,
Would be John Master, but I don't think he's online. Let me have a look.
yeah,
No, he's not. So that was an update as of the agenda being filled. 8th of August. And I haven't had any correspondence on anything further since then.
Got to get the spreadsheet out down for you.
Yeah, so John has met with the committee chairperson on site and he will be advising.
John did.
Yeah, he will be
Himself.
advising himself, I believe.
Okay.
It would either have been him or Paul, sorry.
Yeah.
And they are organising next steps and will, he has noted he will send you back an update as soon as possible.
It's another Holland class talk coming out of then. Yeah, okay, well, the second part there is the question I asked about. What Terry wants to know what's going on with the maintaining leasing. Do we have an update on that? Other than what's written there?
So now through the chair, there's no further update to that. Again, probably in this instance, it would be the chief executive or John Maston that would provide an update. But yeah, there's only been a couple of weeks past since this update was written.
Yeah.
And yeah, we don't have any other further update at this time, but you can see that it's in progress.
This goes way back to when council increased the rental. Remember that one time ago, was that 18 months ago? Yeah, years ago. Yeah. And it's still caused a lot of ruckus.
No, there's,
A lot of debate.
I just think these assets need to be council controlled, council run with a book and paid for, because people want to use these facilities. They don't want to fundraise to use them. And they're adding value to the community through them. At the moment, it's very, very messy around how it's all structured. And if they're going to end up, this is taking rates to run a business, to pay rates to run a business. It's a voluntary organisations using them.
Yeah.
If it was a commercial operation, we'd certainly charge it, but I just think we're we've got to think down that line. We want the volunteers to do and be part of the community. They're getting less and less, aren't they? Not
They
getting
certainly are. It's the same people that have that are on civil committees as well. You know, and they're all they're becoming.
Getting old.
Yeah, that's the word, aged. And I agree, they need to sort it. Someone needs to, I know Nicole has been dropped in it somewhat.
Well, I just think that there's just something we just need to pick up, just pay for it. Now, the cost of running the maintenance of the halls does cost money, but the benefits it brings to the community, those groups can use it.
It's an integral part of the community.
Yeah.
The community hall.
Good money spent well.
You get one like Tairua-Pāuanui, it's used every day.
Yeah. Yeah, all sorts of people, eh?
Yeah, oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, the other part of it, we've got a bit of Tairua Hall, the annex, which is, it's totally locally run and maintained. They're looking for a new roof.
Yeah, it's a few bucks.
Yeah, and currently the idea is to might sponsor a sheet. And I'm going to put it out there. Local newspaper can try and get a sheet sponsored. But, you know, they don't have any great money either.
No, well, that's a community asset. That should be.
Yeah.
So we just look at this really wrongly. I think we just need to have that facility. It's something that needs more discussion.
Yeah. And just through the chair, just to sort of manage expectations, I suppose. Yes, the topic has been raised by the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board, but what's been asked for is probably a wider district, more comprehensive piece of work. So just to bear in mind that is a significant piece of work that will be needed there. So just to set your expectations around your timeframes right, it will take time.
Have you any idea how many halls are involved in the district? There wouldn't be a great amount, would there?
Yeah, not off the top of my head. Sorry, Warwick.
There's a big one in Thames, but they've all got several halls over there that they use for arts and things like that. But you know, one in Whangamatā, there's one in every area, and even smaller, there's one in Poetry, there's one in
Banana, yeah.
There's one in
Kitty's gone. The Kitty's gone. Cora Glen has one.
Whangamatā.
Yeah.
They've all got, they were built after the war, weren't they? They went around the country building more things exactly for that, for community activities go on there. And to charge for it seems crazy.
Yeah. Your TV towers, your phone towers. I've seen a bit of stuff coming in about Terry.
The which, sorry?
The Vodafone and.
Oh, yes, the Vodafone, yes. This is causing some merry hell, I can tell you, 5G. And the voice of freedom will come very clearly through the elections. There's quite a few of those standing in that role now. And I've written to Vodafone several times, and they've come back and they've said, especially, so why are you putting a 5G tower in Tairua and you get on the road and come between here and Whangamatā, you can't get any coverage. So they're going to put a new tower along somewhere where the turn off to Whangamatā is, and on the State Highway 25 there, somewhere around there. They gave me a location on the map. I saw that. But the 5G thing won't go away. People are really concerned about the high frequency, close to residential houses. So, but it's not something that we can't really enforce. If they follow the national standards, I think the council has to grant a consent regardless, don't they? Seems to be out of our hands.
It came up at council, the last council meeting, and there was some questions asked and there was some information being sought. Yeah, they did ask around the radiation or any new health issues that's discovered around the world, because there's been a lot of information. I haven't seen any information. Lorna, can you add some information to that?
So there was a delegation of people from the public who came to the council meeting just to talk about their personal opinions. As you're well aware, we had Vodafone came around to all the community boards in advance of where they were suggesting to put the sites to give you all an awareness of what their plan was. And as Terry's explained, they do have a community engagement person, and they are more than happy to come and talk to communities. So that can be arranged if necessary as well.
Lord, didn't the Mayor ask for any new advice on any health issues that have risen, through scientific research to be brought forward? Did she ask?
She did ask for that, Terry, and that was circulated in the Councillor's weekly update that all the elected members get a couple of Fridays ago, which has the latest Ministry of Health advice. And there was also a case law study that was provided as well, which I can recirculate if you need to see it again.
Good, sorry, I missed it in the weekly. It's great to think that weekly update if you read it. So, sorry, I missed that. Okay, all good.
The one in Tairua, I understood that they were going ahead and they were going to have a dual Spark and Vodafone. We're going to share a facility on where they have their exchange now. I thought that was a done deal. What was happening?
Don't know. I've had lots of emails. I can't address it. I just got some people ring about it.
But no, I don't think our area would welcome another presentation, considering what happened with the first one we had. Oh, yeah. We had a massive sit-in.
This is going to be quite a big issue with the elections, I feel. I know it's about 20 or 30 came from Coromandel down to Oyster-Thing, and I think there's quite a few of the. I've had emails asking me about my opinions from the Voice of Freedoms, and like me, I've got my opinion. I think that's what they're asking is fair enough to ask the question. So I don't engage with them, but they've got a point.
Yeah.
I think last time they ran up, sitting up in a cherry field and all sorts of things.
So councillor. All right. The last item there was the track, Chris, the Paku track.
Yeah. I see it's closed.
So you've been up there?
No,
Okay.
man's undertaken for recreational services. So I guess they've gone up and done some work on it. Haven't heard any more complaints.
So anything else out of there? If not, I'll move the motion that we receive the Tairua-Pauanui Community Board Action Schedule report dated 25th of July 2022. All in favour? Carried. 6.2, move and second for the members' reports.
Yep.
What have we got? Where's mine? Chris, you must have saying?
No, not a lot.
Better find mine.
I'm sort of wondering about that mess in Gallagher Drive. I brought that up a couple of times now. It hasn't been fixed. The contractor's been in and cleaned all the excess dirt away, but they haven't done anything about reseeding it. There's still a lot of stuff going down a lot of dirt going down the drains. I've also had quite a discussion with the guys on the Stockaway. It sounds like that's pretty happy with how that's going. And I think it's a marvellous thing. If we can get it through to Pauanui, it'd be pretty marvellous.
Through the Tairua?
Yeah, through the Tairua, across the bridge. They're talking about a bridge across just south of town as well. Yeah.
So if we can get this thing up onto the work schedule, we'll know what information about what's going on.
Let's, for a start, get us through to the cemetery for a start. And then carry it on, but there's moves afoot to drive it. They've had a change of committee, and the guys sound like they're pretty well onto it. That's, what else do I do? Pretty much me, I think, for the minute. It's been pretty quiet enough. Terry?
Yeah, just recap on a couple of things. It's after August, so the boat ramp QR code machines, I don't know if they're out yet or not, but they'll be out there. There's also been some chopping down of the signs and things like that. This is still going to have an issue. I just think this is going to be a hard thing to deal with if we go forward, and we just need to have some common sense going forward to think about how it's going to work and making sure the facilities are there before we do the charging. It's my little rant on that. There's quite a few things around consultation at the moment. One's about road speeds. The Whangamatā put out a list of what they recommend. It's been looked at council by roading, and it's going to come out for a consultation. It's very focused around the fact if you're an individual, you can only have influence outside your place. I understand. If you're a group, you can have a bit more of a say around the community about the speeds, what's going on. And that's going to be quite a change to how we operate a little bit around the transportation area. Regional Council has put its put forward to say that they would look after the transportation system with buses and things like that, but I haven't seen too much data come out from that. But they've said that they will provide links between towns and communities, and there will be some sort of rating charge, I'm sure, on their rates for it, but we don't quite know the full story of that. Can you get more comment on that, Dean? Do you know any more about that?
Through the chair, no, I haven't had any additional updates, so Ed Varley would be the person to provide that update.
Yeah. And then, of course, we've got the dog laws, dog bylaws. We've got the activities bylaws. There's a lot of stuff going on at the moment. And one of the questions was asked, can community boards make submissions on this? And Eileen never got back to me that I'm aware of. Can community boards make submissions on these bylaws? Did you know, Esther?
Through the chair, I believe it was discussed. I think Lorna might be able to give some clarity on that one. Lorna, you? Yeah.
Yes, so like in any annual plan, when we will, with the bylaws, there are some, Terry, that you've mentioned that aren't out for public consultation yet. What we'll do is we sort of normally give the boards a briefing, and then we go out for public submission on that, and the board can make a submission to those bylaws. As we said, it is something that you can do.
Okay, that's great. Okay. Okay, and just going through a list here. Yeah, so we thank Dean for putting together the final for the work completed for the 21-22 financial year. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things were completed. Around harbour renewals, Torrens Ocean Beach Road, Kermit Channel, footpath construction, rehabilitation, renewals, furniture reserves, parks and library books. All reasonably locally small stuff, not a lot of big stuff has been completed yet. We're waiting for those things to happen, hopefully. And it'll be up for the new board to push those agendas. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. For myself, I've attended the usual monthly meetings of the resident ratepayers, the whole committee, the information and community services. I've got an AGM later today, the whole committee. That'll be another fun point. I've received a fair, as I said before, I've received a fair bit of public concerns about harbour management. So we're looking forward to seeing how that eventuates this coming summer. Plenty of public concern about the maintenance of the parks and reserves. And of course, the freedom camping, that's been a hot topic around town. I did mention before that we had, when we first came to Tairua, there were 5 camping grounds. And now we've got perhaps a third of the last one left. So this does contribute to where people can go camping. That's really about it. Campaigning, I guess, will start shortly. So all the best to those that are standing. Thank you. Can we, or now remove that? We'll receive the members' reports. Somebody moved a second. No, somebody agreed. We moved it. We all agree.
Yep.
Thank you. 6.3.
I'll move.
So moving to
Exclude the public. I move that we move out of public to public excluded. Have a second?
Yep.
Yeah.
okay.
Just got to disconnect a few things.